Escena uno, toma uno, The Switchers News, acción.
Okay.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. We are at The Switchers News. Today we're talking about the protests in Colombia. How's the situation going in Colombia? How's the social and political situation going in Colombia? We have our journalists, our reporters from Colombia. We're going to begin with Juan Pablo. Juan Pablo, what can tell you about the situation in Colombia?
Hi, Pipe. Good morning, televidents. Colombia tax protests of the last 70 days. Outman say. Colombian office, the Outman, has confirmed that the last 17 people were killed in the 5 days of the protest tax reform. At least 18,000 people were induced of the police class with the demonstration in major cities. The human rights group and the protests have the accused with police squad of the using unnecessary force. The reforms which would have increased taxes of love at the middle incoming groups have now been enslaved. The Catholic figure were made public by Colombian Office of the Ombudsman, which user data provided by police and the Attorney General's office. They confirm report by human rights groups with the have report more than the dozen people killed in the protests in Colombian major cities. Colombian Ombudsman Carlos Camargo told Caracol Radio that the figure of the 1,000 killer could be higher the 70 they have so far listened. They say this office has received a report of the 20 deaths, but they have not yet been about the verification of the report. Colombian Ombudsman Office is an official government agency tasked with the overseeing to the protection of the citizen human and civil rights. Among those included in the clausen were hundreds of the police officers, according to the Osman Daily.
Thank you, Juan Pablo, for that information from Colombia. Now we have Jessica. Jessica, what can you? Sorry. Yeah, what can you tell about the situation in Colombia?
Okay. Hello. The protests start on Wednesday, when the largest trade union called for a national strike to oppose the now self-to tax reform. Colombia state to street to oppose tax reform. The government argued that the reform was key to mitigating Colombia's economic crisis. Its gross domestic product GDP decreased by 6.8% last year, the best case in half a century, and the coronavirus pandemic has further driven up its unemployment rate. The proposed reform would have lowered the threshold at which salaries are taxed, affecting anyone with a monthly income of $656 or more. It would also have eliminated many of the current exceptions enjoyed by individuals, as well as increasing taxes imposed on business. It caused outrage among Colombians already battered by the pandemic, and the protests were joined by many middle-class people who feared the change could see them slip into poverty. Reporting from Colombia for Switcher News.
Thank you, Jessica. John, what can you tell about the situation in Colombia?
Good night, Andres. How did get of hand? Protesters to do the street in defense of a court order ruling that the march shall be postponed because of a current spike in COVID-19 cases. Police were deployed in force to the major cities where members of trade unions, indigenous groups, and civil society organizations converged to protest. The protests were particularly violent in Cali. Cali is Colombia's third largest city, which experiences several days of street confrontation between protesters and security forces. Local media named one of those who died in the city's protest as Nicolas Guerrero, a 27-year-old artist in Cali. The mayor of Cali, Jorge Iván Ospina, said that the Guerrero had died of a gunshot wound to the head. I condemn this, and I ask all of police to not even think about using guns in this protest, the mayor said to the police. Police reported that making more than 400 arrests nationwide. They also say that across the country, 20 public transport buses have been set alight by protesters. 50 businesses have been looted and more than 250 have been vandalized. But what's the background? Remember that the last year was outraged after teenage protester Dylan Cruz died after being hit by a police projectile in the head before pandemic. And in September last year, at least 7 people were killed in protests triggered by the deadly tasering of a man by police in the capital, Bogota. That's all.
Thank you, John. Thank you for reporting from Colombia. Cata,
Okay.
what's the situation with the protest in Medellin and Colombia in general? Cata, we can hear you. We have some problems with the communication.
Problem.
Okay. Thank you, Cata.
Finance Minister Albert Carrasquilla sublimit his resignation on Monday every night after spending most of the day in meeting with Duque. My continues in the government will comply the quick and effective construction of the necessary consults. Carrasquilla said in his minister statement, as reported by the Return News Agency. But experts say demonstrations are expected to go on. Alicia Gomez, at 51 years old, clearly supports the protest. Told Al Jazeera that Colombians are tired of the government putting more tax on the population, which is already strongly due to the COVID-19 pandemic. We have to keep fighting because if we don't, they going to take our right away, completely to today. Okay, Pipe.
Thank you, Catalina. Thank you for your information about the protest in Colombia. Sandra has more information about what's going on with the protest in Colombia.
Okay, Pipe, okay, people. Wow, the situation is very hard, tremendous discount. But popular anger goes beyond the tax reform alone. Jimena Sanchez of the Washington office on Latin America think tank told Ojeras there is tremendous discount in the street. The brutal repression of protests has fueled in made the worse, Sanchez said. Duque's unpopularity and perceptive distance from the general populace and their interest combined with the economic downturn due to COVID and restriction increase insecurity and disturbance. An advised space will keep this protest going. A national striker was called last Wednesday by the country's largest unions, and the protest has been ongoing since in the Bogota, Medellin, and Cali, among other cities. Cali has seen the most intense clash between protesters and the police. On Monday, the national striker community said the protest will continue with the next national striker scheduled for Wednesday. Protests are demanding much more than the withdrawal of the tax reform, said Francisco Maltes, president of the Central Unions of Workers, in the news conference. Unions are calling for the withdrawal of the proposed health reform and guaranteeing basic income of the million pesos for Colombians, as well as the demilitarization of the cities and end the ongoing police violence and the dismantling of heavy hundred riot police now has SMAT. Continue, you in the studio.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you for your reporting. We're going to continue with. Yeah, Jomara, what can you tell us about the protest?
Moment.
Okay, it's okay. Meanwhile, Miguel, what can you tell us about the protest in Colombia?
Okay, Pipe, we can talk about the government attitude. As the protests are expected to continue, political analysts question where Duque's government truly grabbed the breath of Colombians' discontent. This started as something about tax reform, but now it's about another sort of thing. It snowballed in a much larger protest that I think the government doesn't really have a grasp of. Sergio Guzman, a political analyst who runs the Colombian risk analyst firm, told Al Jazeera. Guzman said the government could start a new national dialogue, but it appeared focused for the time being on deciding who will take over as finance minister. I think that's going to give us a lot of indication of whether or not the government is listening to the people out of the street, because it is choose somebody from inside the current party. It's suggesting that they think they can handle this crisis on their own. Tigner, the political science, says Duque presidency has been characterized by a combination of incompetence, arrogance, and unwillingness to acknowledge legitimate source of disagreement. There is little reason to think that things will change significantly now that is nearing the one-year mark for the end of this government. She said as Colombian presidential elections are scheduled for May 29 next year. She added that she sees no end to the protest for now. There is little indication that the government will engage in the type of genuine national dialogue that is being called for.
Thank you, Miguel. Yomara, do you have any more information?
Yes. In the Colombia, the continuing protests, there's an international condemnation of alleged human rights abuses against protests by police, saw the president concede on Sunday. This is the first time that the government had voted when faced with spread popular opposition. In a local media interview last month, Carrasquilla was asked how much a dozen eggs cost. His unrealistic answer He said they were more than 4 times cheaper than they actually are. Es por otra in country and reality. Unstrongly, why a coronavirus related economic crisis.